Well, good evening. How are you tonight? I hope you had a great day. And thanks for tuning in. And welcome back to episode 11 of Man Without a Title. Um, this episode is called The Dangers of Fear and Pride. Um, so, this is something that I struggled with a lot growing up, and something that almost cost me everything. Not once, not twice, but numerous times. And, I'm sure everyone growing up heard the phrase, fear is weakness, or real men aren't afraid, or if you fear nothing, you're unstoppable. Heard that one. But those are the phrases that almost ruined me. Because the truth is, I wasn't fearless. I was afraid of the wrong things, right? So I feared people and what they thought about me. I feared looking weak. I feared being overlooked, right? The fear of not being accepted. So instead of dealing with that fear the right way, I didn't. I built a identity around having no fear at all of anything, a persona. And that right there is the start. And that's where things got dangerous for me. And that's where, in a young age, I started going the wrong way. And here's something that I didn't understand back then. But when you fear people, you don't become timid, right? You become reckless. Time and time again, I had tried to prove myself that I wasn't scared by just doing anything, saying anything, crossing the line, stupid stuff. I'm embarrassed of the things I used to say to women, because I wanted to look cool in front of my buddies. And I would just say the nastiest things to women. And it was so ignorant, and I regret it. But again, I'm a good looking guy. I can get this woman. Let me go. Yeah, cheer me on. God, so stupid. But see, if if I could be that guy who feels nothing, maybe people would respect me. Maybe they want to be like me, and maybe they would accept me. It's all this stuff going through my head. So I became bold without any wisdom, confident without character at all, and free without any restraints. But see, I didn't realize at the time, but that kind of fearlessness is not a good thing. It's not a positive thing. It's insecurity, my insecurity, that I put a mask on to hide the way I really felt, to hide the inside, the dirty, the nasty. And so this is the scary part for me. When when you remove fear completely, like I did, you remove everything else with it. Accountability. You don't feel the hurting people. You don't fear destroying relationships. You don't fear long term consequences. You don't fear sin. None of that. And you don't fear God. You think everything's I can get away with everything. But see what what you don't when you don't feel consequences, sin feels cheap, temporary, harmless, no big deal. And I told myself I was living free. I was on top of the world, right? And I thought back then I knew what I was doing, but I had no idea. And the reality of it, I was destroying myself. And the thing about pride is it can be used for good and also for evil. And a good example is so I used to work for my dad, and we used to have to shovel sand after we get done sandblasting. And me and my cousin, that I talked about in a couple episodes earlier, we were shoveling buckets of sand into the dumpster. And we were holding 2 5-gallon buckets full of sand. We were running them back and forth. And my cousin was like, "Come on, let's go, cuz you can do it, you can do it, you can do it." And he was pushing me. He said, "You can't let these other guys beat you. Just cause you have a bad hand, you can do it." And he pushed me, prideful. Be strong. You can do it. Push me to be better. That's a good pride, right? That's a pride you can be proud of. Okay. But the pride that I'm talking about here in this episode isn't that pride, right? It's a scary pride. The pride that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't kick the door in. It sneaks in slowly and it whispers in your ear, right? You're fine. You deserve this. Rules can never apply to you, right? You've been through enough. You've earned it, right? All the little things in your head. Pride, pride, pride. It's a silent killer because it convinces you that you're right, even when you're wrong. Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, and the haunting spirit before the fall. Not after, but before. Pride is a setup. The fall is just a result. Okay? And see, listen to me carefully here, because I want to explain this in a way that everyone will be able to hear me. So, a lot of people think that the first ever sin was committed in the Garden of Eden, right? You know, the fruit of good and evil, Eve ate it and gave it to Adam, right? But that's not true. It's not correct. So the first ever sin committed was actually in heaven. Okay? So God created all these angelic beings, right? And the three that we know the most of, everyone kind of knows, is Michael, Gabriel, and Lucifer. And somehow, some way in heaven, Lucifer caught a glimpse of his own beauty, his own beauty. That's all I can say. And there's where the first sin in heaven was committed. It was pride, right? And it was, I think it was Isaiah. Isaiah 14 says that he said, I will ascend to heaven. I will rise my throne above the stars of God, and I will take myself. I will make myself like the Most High. Okay? Pride made an angel believe he didn't need God anymore. And you think that could happen in heaven? And there were angels made by God? Just like we are made in the image of God. And you think you don't have to worry about pride? The Bible says God cast him out of the heaven, and he said, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning down to the earth. And you actually in Revelation it talks about when he cast him out of heaven, Lucifer took a third of the angels with him. Because you know why? That pride. He got in their ears. Come on, don't worry, we could. But like I said, if pride is powerful enough to remove an angel from the heavens, why do you think it can't destroy us? It can, it has, and it will cost you relationships. It'll make you so prideful that you'll ignore warnings. You'll feel like you're untouchable. You'll justify behavior because it's me. I'm not wrong. No way I'm wrong. Later in life, I realized quick that that was one of top top three things that I struggle with. And it's one of them that you have to be careful to know which one is a good side or which one's a bad side of pride. Because along with the fear that I was talking about earlier, the fear of not caring, the fear of wanting people to like you, okay, so that ultimately feeds the fuel for pride, okay? So you're so fearful inside, you want to cover everything up, hide it, You have to overcompensate yourself, and that's where the pride comes in, and you have to, get up and try to be someone you're not. Try to fake it till you make it, I guess you could say. And it gets dangerous. Very dangerous waters. Everyone listening right now, do something for me. Later on, whenever you by yourself, sitting in bed, laying in bed, or sitting on the couch, ask yourself a few questions and just answer them, ask and answer in your head. what what has pride said to you in your head? What has pride costed you? And what did pride make you blind to? Ask and answer yourself them questions. Because those are the questions I wrote down when I was trying to write down my thoughts and figure out the stuff that's damaging in my life and the things that I had to ask God to help me with. Okay, so I had a little journal and I wrote it down, and those are the things that I have to work on, right? And it helps me to get stuff in my head. I write it down. And every time I feel the pride rising up, I just stop it and say, hey, it's not the right pride. You have trouble with this. Calm down. Go to Christ. But see, here's the difference. I had to learn the hard way, right? And my confidence said, oh, I know who I am. I know who I am. And I was secure in that now. But pride said, I don't need accountability. See, confidence is grounding, right? Confidence is meek, is humbling, right? But pride is a defensive mechanism. Okay? That's where you go on the defense. I told you guys before. My dad would call, hey, what are you doing? I'm working. I freak out. I thought he was calling me to get on my case or whatever, so I got defensive. But he wasn't. He just calling to see what's going on, how the job was going, or whatever the case may be. But that was my big thing. I always jumped to the defense. In my marriage, also. Well, my wife was saying, well, how much money we have? Why you care? Why do you want to know? I didn't defense. Thought she was asking me if I spent money. No. And whenever you live in a life of sin, you're always going to be on the defense because it's always going to be, what did I do? I don't even remember. And then you're always thinking, nope, something's happening. Something bad's going to happen. I know I did something bad. It's just coming up to bite me now. So the defense kicks in. The narcissistic element kicks in, right? But like I said, confidence is grounded. Pride is a defense, right? Confidence listens. Pride reacts, right? Pride, you just want to react. You just want to go off the handle. And then, that verse keeps running through my head. James 4:6, right? God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Man, how awesome is that? But see, that verse used to scare me when I read it or when I heard the preachers talk about it. Because opposition from people is for me, it's hard. I can't deal with it. But opposition from God, that's a losing battle, right? I can't deal with the opposition from humans, but I can overcome it. I can deal with it. I can deceive my way out of it. But with God, you lost. You ain't gonna win. Just like He says when you were born, I knew every hair on your head, and He knows every grain of sand on the earth. It's a losing battle. But see, to me, the problem wasn't only fear. It was what I feared. Okay, and I was sitting down earlier thinking about some bullet points to catch on tonight because I don't like to keep it. I like to keep it unscripted as much as possible, but I still have a little list of things that I want to keep on subject. And I remember I was writing, and the one bullet point that I wrote down was about the fear of God more than the fear of people, and I put it in big caps. And that was a big thing for me because I didn't. I had no fear for God. I did whatever I wanted, and I didn't care who I hurt. And yet, He took me in. He loves me. He's repairing me, even after everything I did to Him. I feared people more than God. I feared the opinions of what they had more than God. I feared rejection more than obedience. Until I looked at this verse and applied it to my life, I had it all wrong. So the verse is Proverbs 9:10. I read it this morning. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Okay? So you ask yourself, what does that mean? I don't understand it. The minute you surrender yourself to Christ and you ask Him into your heart, okay? And you tell Him, listen, I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing here. I want you to take over, okay? Take everything. Fear Him, and He'll give you the wisdom that you need. See, in this verse, it's not saying that fear, it's not a terror, it's not a negative thing, it's reverence, it's awareness, right? It's the understanding that choices that you're about to carry out in life, that you're about to surrender to Him and let Him do the work, right? So, a cool analogy I heard the other day from a preacher that I listened to, he said, you low, right? God will see you. But if you quit lowing, what you got to scare you with? There's nothing, you're not going anywhere. So you still have to show up. You still have to put your effort in. You still have to keep seeking his face and keep seeking his word every day and keep the boat moving with you lowing so he can steer you to where you need to be, to where he wants you to be. Right? I didn't want to put the effort in. I sat there in the boat and I thought I was going somewhere. I was in the same place for 30, 40 years. Until I start lowing, right? I was blind. Now, the more I low, the more I seek Him, the more I go find Him, the more I lean on Him, my sight comes back little by little. And like I said before, it doesn't just ping overnight, all of a sudden you change. No, no. But you have to still put the effort in, okay? And the fear that verse is talking about, right? It doesn't limit you. So that's another misconception about Christianity, all being a Christian is all these limitations. No, it's not fear of that. It's fear. It protects you, and having no fear doesn't make you strong. It doesn't. It makes you careless. It makes you no worries, right? But see, carelessness, it's expensive. Trust me, I know. And if you're listening right now, and you're proud of having no fear, and you're dealing with this the same as I was, and still am, ask yourself, What are you ignoring? Who are you hurting? What are you trying to justify? Where is pride quietly stealing you and your decisions that you're making day by day in life? Because having no fear almost cost me everything. Everything. But learning humility, learning accountability, and learning to adopt the right fear, that was the start of saving myself and letting God take over. Because without giving it to Him and letting Him mold you into what He wants to mold you, let Him prune you, right? Let Him cut the dead branches off. And let Him make you into what He has for your life. Because otherwise, if you try to do it on your own, I know for me, it doesn't work, it didn't work. And I thank God that He never gave up. And I'm happy to say that I am no longer of my own soul. I live for Christ. And the best decision I ever made. So appreciate you guys listening. This is Man Without a Title. And sometimes the strongest things you can do in life is just giving up on stuff. Have a good night.